You could say that from the outset it was a gamble, because Caro and Jeunet had made a big impression with the City of Lost Children. And it goes without saying that even if making a video game from the film was highly attractive to the team, it would not necessarily be easy. But at Psygnosis, challenges are welcomed, so this game was made.
Actually, it was the film's producers that issued the challenge. The script of the game arrived one day for the attention of Dennis Friedman. Dennis read it and was completely captivated by the world of Jeunet and Caro. So shooting began straight away while the film itself was still being made. The eye-catching sets and deftly defined characters are ideally suited for a successful video game.
Of course, the filmmakers had to preserve the fantastic atmosphere of the story and the very marked personalities of the characters. So Marc Caro himself regularly visited the story development team to offer advice.
I came by once or twice and said to them, that needs to be a bit grubbier, or you must have a bit more rain. Just things like that. But it's true, I suppose. There are hidden corners which I'll discover myself as the game develops. That's what's really good.
But even if there are lots of Caro's distinctive touches, that doesn't mean that the game is simply a slavish imitation of the film. This is an interactive game full of riddles where the player is the real actor in the story.
I personally like this kind of game, where the whole universe is created in 3D. It's made in model form, and afterwards you can walk about in it. It really is a very interesting extension. I've always found it frustrating after making a film, to have invented a whole world like that and then only shown a part of it. With the game, however, you can develop many of those other aspects.
Once the game's script, sets and characters were defined, all the team had to do was start work. But it would take more than 2 years before this mysterious adventure was complete. As in the film, Miette must find the children and set them free. The little girl moves around in real time in a 3D world and can meet and interact with 19 other characters. To ensure that all the movements look as realistic as possible, a technique called motion capture has been used. Sensors were fitted to various parts of the bodies of real actors. The actors were then filmed in all the possible situations, but only the sensor movements will be retained, and the graphic artist will use these to create a skeleton. Then, little by little, the character will take shape and become animated. How's that for realism?
Mais d'où vient ce bruit?
I think that we've succeeded in capturing the essence of the characters, though some seem problematic at the outset. I'm thinking particularly of Perdus, the Siamese twin sisters. A lot of manipulation was required to achieve the Siamese twin effect. 2 dancers who were used to working together were taped to each other to avoid inconsistencies and to prevent their crashing into one another.
A city with post-industrial architecture, a real imaginary world full of rich and intricate detail. Working from plans and drawings from the film, the graphic artists recreated and in some cases invented almost 100 superb sets. By using high-resolution textures, an almost cinematic quality was achieved, plunging us back into the unique atmosphere of the film.
For the video game, we had to invent new locations, for the mechanisms, for the story, for the playability of the game. Locations were therefore created from scratch, keeping as much as possible to Marc Caro's world plan. So we worked in collaboration with him. He came in, he said to us, that's not bad, make it a bit more trashy, etc. And bit by bit, we built up about 10 sets like that, which were completely new in relation to the film.
By multiplying the motion capture sessions with the City of Lost Children, Psygnosis had achieved a world first, a session with 3 actors at the same time. There were so many sensors to control that it was no easy task, believe us. Ultra-realistic characters, sets to take your breath away, but this must all be mixed before functional scenes can be achieved. The programming team is in charge of this, and their aim is to ensure that Miette is perfectly integrated into the locations where she moves around. The whole thing is of course visible from several camera angles.
The hardest thing was integrating the character into the sets. That's because we didn't simply want to have a 3D object in a picture. We wanted a living character in a set, in a place. Take for example the cashier's hut, where the character can move around and the camera can change angle, and where the light sources too can affect the character. For example, when you turn them on or off using the switch. There are little details, for instance, when Miette climbs the stairs and her feet meet the steps exactly. These are details which can be difficult to achieve in an integration.
All that remains now is to combine all the graphics and animations so that the game runs as it should. The work is painstaking and tedious and involves hundreds of lines of code, completely incomprehensible to the uninitiated. But the fact is that it works, and works rather well.
Thanks to this programming, the behaviour of each of the characters can be portrayed, as well as the objects, the places, the rooms, in fact everything that occurs in the game. The various elements will be integrated by the graphic artists and the musicians to portray the behaviour that's been established in what is known as the storyboard. Each element of behaviour, an object which must be given, dialogue which must be spoken, a scene which may or may not have to be played out, all this is described in the story, and all the elements are collected up, assembled, and will eventually combine to form the behaviour of the player.
A minor miracle by the team. A new programming language has been invented so that the game can be developed concurrently for both PlayStation consoles and computers. As a result, the City of Lost Children will come out at almost the same time on both platforms. Not bad, eh? Do you recognise her? It is, of course, Judith Vitae, the young actress who played Miette in Jeunet and Caro's film. As you will see, to maintain fidelity to the film, the original actors were engaged to interpret the game's dialogues. But when you're faced with just a simple microphone, this is not as easy as it sounds.
It's much more difficult because there's no atmosphere. You're just in a room with a microphone, and that is a completely different ambience from the film.
All the dialogues have also been translated into French and German, and the hundreds of sound effects and the symphonic music have been specially composed. Needless to say, this work was not completed in a day.
For this game in particular, for the city, there was a lot of work involved because there are lots of animations, lots of images, lots of actions to put the soundtrack to, and cinematic music to be timed exactly. It reminded me of work that I've done for the stage or the cinema. It's very comparable, at least in terms of the amount of work.
When she finally got to see the finished product, Judith was evidently not disappointed.
I saw it earlier without my voice track, but with the voice, it really is strange. You say to yourself, it's you inside there. It really is very well done. I love the drawings, and it was nice to be playing the role of Miette again.
The soundtrack is crucial in strengthening the unique atmosphere of this game, and plunges us with even greater pleasure into this imaginary world full of mystery.